Hi, I want to show you how to build a simple state machine in Factorio. A state machine keeps track of a state and changes based on inputs that arrive. Our state I'm going to call S, and to keep track of S I'm going to use a combinator where I add 0 to S and output S and feed that output back into the input. Now whatever S arrives on this combinator will get saved in that combinator. So we can understand what state we're in, let's wire up some lights to the output of that. Let's make the first light up only when S is 0, and the subsequent ones will change to light up when S is 1 or when S is 2. We also want some inputs, so I'm going to have a constant combinator for that. Let's say input A should change us from state 0 to state 1, input B should change us from state 1 to state 2, and input C should change us from state 2 back to state 0. Let's disable the inputs while we get things working. So, now we have to write the logic. The logic is going to depend both on the input and the current state, which we get from the red wire. And it's going to want to modify the state, so I have to wire the red wire back. What does it do? Well, when the state is 0 and the input A is non-zero, we've triggered it, then we want to go to state 1. To do that, we add 1 to the state. We'll emit the state S, which will feed into our state machine and bump it up 1. Let's watch. If I hit A, we're now in state 2. Notice that we don't continue incrementing the state because now that the state is 2, this clause is no longer firing because the first part doesn't match, even if A is on. We can do the same trick for our other two inputs. We want to detect the state being 1 or 2, and we want to use the inputs B and C for those. When B is non-zero and the state is 1, we'll increment the state, and when C is non-zero and the state is 2, we'll increment the state. Let's watch that. So now I can use B to move to the next state, and I can use C to go back to the beginning. Of course, we're not back at the beginning, we're actually at state 3. We want to go back to state 0. The trick I use for this is to use another combinator, detect when we enter that final state, state 3, and cancel us back to 0 by subtracting 3. The trick here is you can edit the constant value on the outputs and just emit -3 to move yourself back. Now, when we get a C, oops, what state are we in? We're in state 3. Oh, we haven't wired it up. It needs to be connected to the red wires so that it can modify the state. You notice we've now jumped back to state 0 because we were in state 3 and so we dropped back to state 0. Now we should be working. Let's see. We're in state 0. A fires, we go to state 1. B fires, we go to state 2. C fires, we go back to state 1. Notice that irrelevant inputs don't affect the state, only the state that corresponds to the input. Only the input corresponding to the current state moves us to the next state.